you gonna bark all day, or are you gonna bite?
Hey guys, I'm Jim Minns, and welcome to Talking Essays, where I watch video essays and I talk about them. A lot of them out there. At the moment we're covering Lessons from the Screenplay by Michael Tucker. It's a fantastic channel, and if you click on this link, it'll take you there, and you can binge watch his entire series. He does video essays on fantastic films that happen to be my favourite films, so it's rather coincidental that I'm covering it, really. Well, just hit a chord. He is an absolute legend. He's the best in the business. So once you're done watching them, come back here and have a listen to what I have to say about his fine work. Today I'm covering one of the best films ever written, Nightcrawler. So without further ado, let's have a listen to what Michael has to say.
In Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal plays a character named Lou Bloom, who stumbles upon the world of local TV news.
This is one of the greatest
He
films
becomes a stringer,
ever.
someone who films breaking stories, often tragic and violent, and sells the footage to TV stations.
Fantastic concept
Lou
straight
is
away.
motivated, clever, and a sociopath.
He's a nutbag.
What if my problem wasn't that I don't understand people, but that I don't like them?
Throughout the film, Lou's lack of empathy and
Rogue
drive to succeed leads him to take increasingly unforgivable actions. Yet he remains the hero of the story, while we, the audience, stay engaged.
I know, it's genius.
Why? How necessary is it to have a likable protagonist? And what do anti-heroes offer that conventional heroes may not? Let's step further into the world of Nightcrawler.
This is seriously one of the greatest films ever made.
Sympathetic characters. Usually, when you hear the phrase sympathetic character, it's referring to how likable a character is.
That's what I think.
We tend to like characters who have traits that we find admirable, but the idea that a protagonist must be nice or morally flawless to be sympathetic is a misconception. Some of the greatest protagonists in film and TV history have been rude people with questionable morals, but they still have other traits that can make them sympathetic to a certain extent.
It's interesting that he has Travis Bickle highlighted on the second row because this film is definitely a companion piece to Taxi Driver. And on his point on, what's he talking about? Sympathetic character. I believe that Lou's hardship, his financial hardship, and his willingness to work his way out of his current predicament creates the elements of the sympathy in him. Whenever I see it's the underdog story. He's an underdog. He's a guy who's up against the system and he's pushing back. He wants a piece of the action. Like that fantastic quote from The Departed. This is America. If you don't know how to make money, you're a fucking douchebag. So Lou is pushing against society like we all do, trying to get ahead, trying to make money, trying to live, trying to survive. As screenwriters, Jesus, that's what every working screenwriter has to struggle against. You can see where their motivation came from.
But they still have other traits that can make them sympathetic to a certain extent.
Show me.
Let's look at a couple ways screenwriter Dan Gilroy creates sympathy for Lou. First of all, Lou is a very hard worker.
My motto is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy a ticket.
So he's someone who busts his ass. So that's a sympathetic trait.
This is demonstrated in the sequences where Lou is first learning how to be a Nightcrawler. He does whatever it takes to succeed, and quickly becomes very good at what he does, both traits that tend to be impressive and respectable.
Oh, that's a great piece of tape.
Being a hard worker is an example of a sympathetic character trait that is separate from morality.
That's what I'm saying.
Lou has another trait that is more traditionally associated with likability.
I'm just beginning, so praise from someone such as yourself, where you can imagine that it means quite a lot.
Is that being a sycophant though? I don't know.
Lou is polite.
Okay, the ad didn't say what the job was.
It's a fine opportunity for some lucky someone.
I disagree with Michael here. I don't think Lou's being polite. I think Lou's being conniving. I think, is that a sympathetic trait? I don't know. I recognize what he's doing, but I don't know if I sympathize. Maybe I empathize.
But we quickly see that there is something off about his politeness.
Okay.
You heard I'm adding a second van?
I paused too
Oh,
early.
I didn't hear that.
Gotta be a game changer.
When he starts threatening people in the same calm, polite manner, it becomes a chilling reminder of his sociopathic nature.
I feel like grabbing you by your ears right now and screaming in your face, I'm not fucking interested.
Bill Paxton.
This emphasizes a potential
legend.
problem with trying to create likable protagonists. As Robert McKee says in Story,
That's a good book.
likability is no guarantee of audience involvement. It's merely an aspect of characterization.
Okay.
Being polite is an external behavior and does not equate to an internal goodness.
I mean, you can create sympathetic characters with the actions around them affecting them. So someone could be a complete asshole throughout an entire fictitious film. I'm just making one up. The Door. I just made that movie up. The main character is a complete asshole. He gets hit by a car, has his leg amputated. I would invoke some sympathy for that character then, and through no action of his or her own.
And it's that deeper character that the audience ultimately connects with. When trying to create a sympathetic character, it's easy to end up with a one-dimensional collection of moral, nice, boring character traits instead of an actual character.
Yeah, I'm sure
As
writers don't do
Nightcrawler
that.
progresses, any sympathy we may have had for Lou in the beginning fades. He takes increasingly extreme actions until it's clear that he's dangerous and should be stopped.
I disagree. I'm with Lou all the way. This film is a voyeuristic look into Lou's night crawling, and you're on board. You're with him. You want to see him succeed. You're loving the success. It's like watching Scarface. The more taste of success that he gets, the more we're hooked. And you don't want to see him stop. You want to see how far he can go. You want to see him take it to the top.
But if we, the audience, don't want Lou to succeed, why do we keep watching, besides morbid curiosity?
No, I want him to succeed.
Why do we remain invested in the story and engaged with Lou as protagonist?
Because he's an underdog.
This brings us to empathy.
Sure.
Again, Robert McKee. The audience's emotional involvement is held by the glue of empathy. So what exactly is empathy, and how do you create it for your characters? The definition of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another.
Okay, so maybe I should stop pausing and actually watch the entire video all the way through, because he's pretty much saying exactly how I feel about Lou and why I'm emotionally invested. But I think that there is an element of sympathy there for Lou through my point of view as an audience member anyway. But I digress, and let's watch.
And the key to creating it for your characters is within its definition. Understand. We empathize with a character when we understand the motives behind their actions. When, despite disagreeing with a choice, we know why it was made. Let's look at how we gain empathy for Lou.
I don't disagree with his choice.
When we meet Lou, he's trespassing, stealing, and attacking a security guard. But in the following scene, we get a sense of Lou's situation, where he's coming from.
He's struggling, man. He's an
I'm
underdog.
looking for a job. In fact, I've made up my mind to find a career that I can learn and grow into. Who am I? I'm a hard worker. I set high goals, and I've been told that I'm persistent. So what do you say? I could start tomorrow, or even why not tonight?
No.
We see that Lou is in need of money, that he's a little strange, and that he's searching for fulfillment. As Lou says in his first line of the script,
I'm lost!
knowing all this about his situation, we understand why he's so excited to find the world of night crawling.
Television news might just be something I love, as well as something I happen to be good at.
We empathize with how it must feel to find a well-paying job that you're good at and also find fulfilling.
I agree.
That's something we can all relate to. As the story goes on, the forces of antagonism apply more and more pressure to Lou, so he responds by taking more and more extreme action. At one point, Lou is late to a great story, so his rival gets the exclusive.
5 fatals. I'm screaming out of the fucking sky.
I love Bill Paxton.
All it up with the brush on fire.
Oh, man.
Mine. Exclusive.
Rest in peace.
We understand the
Legend.
embarrassment that comes from being beaten.
Welcome to the future, brah.
Because his rival got the exclusive, Lou has nothing of value to bring to his boss, Nina.
Is this it?
No, I have a stabbing in Corona.
I don't give a goddamn about fucking Corona.
Nina explains this is unacceptable. and makes it very clear that he has to deliver something spectacular.
I want you to get in the goddamn game. I want something people can't turn away from. I want what you fucking promised me.
We understand the shame that comes from disappointing a respected authority figure. Now he's under a huge amount of pressure, and he knows his opponent has the upper hand.
God,
We understand his frustration.
Yeah. And hence I don't disagree with his decisions. I don't see him pushing the boundaries as being bad. I mean, if it was to happen in real life, I would, but I'm invested in this story. I'm with him all the way. Let's take it all the way. Having said that, the ending is fucked.
So when Lou decides to sabotage his competitor's van, causing a crash that threatens his life, we know why Lou is doing what he's doing. We don't necessarily approve, but we're still involved in the story. Nightcrawler has a crystal clear cause and effect that keeps us engaged with Lou and allows us to empathize with each situation he's in. So now that we've seen a few techniques that keep an audience involved in an anti-hero protagonist, I want to briefly examine the virtue of doing so. In the case of Nightcrawler, having Lou be our protagonist forces us into looking at our world in a different way. The movie itself doesn't pass judgment on Lou. As writer-director Dan Gilroy says,
I always saw this and see this as a success story.
Yeah.
I see it as the story of a young man who's desperate for work at the beginning of the film and at the end is the owner of a thriving business.
100%.
After all, Lou didn't create this world of night crawling.
Like in Ghostbusters,
a
the
TV
going into
news
business
built
story.
for sensationalist entertainment instead of sensible education. He just stumbled onto it and is doing what he's told.
That's right.
We find our viewers are more interested in urban crime, creeping into the suburbs. What that means is a victim, or victims, preferably well off and white, injured at the hands of the poor or a minority.
The fact that Lou's sociopathic nature lets him excel in this world only serves to further highlight the real problem.
The real problem isn't Lou, and this is again going back to the empathy for the character. I believe the real problem is the society that creates a character like this and rewards a character like this.
That's right. Insatiable
Because we
attitude for
empathize
disgusting
with
news.
Lou and understand why
For
he does
bad
what he
news.
does, it allows us to partially displace moral judgment.
I agree.
To realize that Lou is simply fulfilling the supply that we, society, are demanding.
That's right.
This is the power of storytelling. When we empathize with someone we wouldn't normally, someone we may not even deem likable, and look at the world through their eyes, we have a fantastic opportunity to learn about ourselves.
Well said. Except for the very last scene, what Lou does is completely fucked. But I'm not going to spoil it. Probably have spoiled 90% of the movie after watching this film anyway. After watching this video anyway. But if you haven't seen Nightcrawler, check it out. It's one of the greatest films ever made. And if you haven't seen Michael Tucker's Lessons from the Screenplay, head over there right now. There's a link at the bottom of the description of this video. Binge watch the hell out of them. He does video essays like that on some of the greatest films ever written, ever made. I'm a loyal fan, as you can tell. Head over to theminimalist.com if you want to be the first to know when we are asking for screenplay submissions for our screenplay competition, which is coming up very, very, very soon. Hit subscribe too while you're here, because I do these videos as often as I can. I'm Jim Minns. See you next time.